Your Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to today's episode of Locked On Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Canucks your first listen of the day. My name is Nick Bondi. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick Bondi. I'm joined as always by my brilliant co-host, Lachlan Irvin, who you can follow him on Twitter at Lock in the Crease, and also find his work now, as we talked about in yesterday's episode, on Canucks Army. Lachlan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing all right. It's been a nice last little day and a bit here for me. It's good to be talking about the Canucks this morning and playing Buffalo and being able to actually use the wall behind me to preview, to have a game matchup with the jerseys. If you don't watch our YouTube videos, I've got an old, very cheap Sabres jersey sitting
nice mustard
behind
yellow.
me. Yep, it's the famous Turd Burger jersey from when the Sabres were really bad. I believe this was the year they were tanking for McDavid, if I remember correctly. That's when these came out. So they were bad. They lost a lot of games in them. Ryan Miller was there for about 20 minutes because he was too good to be on that team. So they traded him, and I have a Ryan Miller jersey to prove it now. So.
Yeah, they're tanking back then for McDavid, and now they're back in another tanking situation this season. But you wouldn't know it by the start they've gone off to. And, of course, the Vancouver Canucks are playing the Buffalo Sabres tonight in Buffalo. We'll preview that today. We have an update on the Travis Hamonic situation. He was suspended without pay yesterday, so we'll get into that. And we'll also talk about our early thoughts on the Vancouver Canucks defense. But to get started, tonight the Vancouver Canucks play the Buffalo Sabres in Buffalo, 4 p.m. local start time for puck drop. The Sabres are 2-0 somehow. Like it's been very shocking so far. So far, they've won their first two games, and I mean, this can either mean A, the Sabres aren't going to be historically bad this season, or B, we talked about this on a previous episode, how the 2016-17 Canucks won 4 straight games to start the season, and then the wheels completely fell off after that. So the season can go, I think, either two ways for Buffalo from this point. Of course, no Jack Eichel for the Buffalo Sabres. Not going to be back with Buffalo ever, probably, or with an NHL team in the near future. It sounds like this is going to be a prolonged battle between Buffalo and Jack Eichel's camp. No Casey Milstead either. He was supposed to be their number one center, 2017 high pick, I believe. 2 or 3 picks after Elias Pettersson. He's not going to be in the lineup today. Craig Anderson, yes, he is still in the league. Craig Anderson starting for the Buffalo Sabres. Lachlan, the Buffalo, they're probably tanking this year, but like we said, you wouldn't know it from the start they've gone out to. We're 4 games into the season, right? This is the 4th game of the season for the Vancouver Canucks. Is this already a must-win, or am I taking crazy pills?
I think it's a little bit of a must-win, not because necessarily the Canucks are in dire straits by any sort, but the way the Canucks have done in the first 3 games has been a bit questionable. And
it's been a mixed bag, I would say. I would call it a mixed bag.
A mixed bag is a perfect way of putting it. Because again, 3 points on a road trip is on a 3 road games is great. Giving up 5 points in those 3 games is not good. So for the Canucks, I think you're really banking on trying to get your first regulation win of the season here. And, like I was even thinking about the idea yesterday, like, oh, it's Buffalo. Why would they not maybe consider going back to Jaro Halak just because the last game, not that it went badly for him specifically, but just the fact of like the way he plays is very different. Maybe they want to get the team more comfortable with him. So they play him against a team like Buffalo. But because of the way the Canucks are playing, I think if they're knowing management, they're probably like, okay, we need a win today. We need a bona fide guaranteed 2 points. So we're going to go to Demko and we're just going to try as hard as we can for this one. And I don't really blame them because at the end of the day, the Sabres are are 2-0, and that's not for a lack of like poor play. That they've actually looked pretty good in those first 2 games. Although, again, that like the asterisk being one of those games was against the Arizona Coyotes, who are also tanking, arguably doing a better job at tanking right now. And the other was the Montreal Canadiens, who are missing their number one goalie, their number one defenseman. And I believe they have another injury that I'm forgetting.
Well, sorry, Lachlan. The Arizona Coyotes went full scorched earth this year in terms of their rebuild, right? Like they got Andrew Ladd playing first line minutes. At least I've heard of some of these guys on the Buffalo Sabres, and they've played, regularly for Buffalo over the past couple of years. It's just they don't have Jack Eichel. I just find, and you mentioned that Buffalo Arizona battle. I just find it funny that those are the 2 teams tanking for Connor McDavid back in the 2014-15 season, right? And we're back full circle back now in 2021, where those teams didn't get McDavid. They spun their wheels, and now they're back to tanking for Connor McDavid, right? I think it's been memory hold in that 2014-15 season. The Edmonton Oilers weren't even supposed to be tanking. They were like legitimately trying to be a playoff team. They just failed spectacularly into getting Connor McDavid, right?
Yeah, the only thing that's changed about the Sabres Coyotes games from that in that era to now is that the jerseys got way better. The jerseys are much better for both teams now. Instead of navy blue and like gold instead of navy blue, they went back to royal blue in Buffalo, and then the Coyotes brought back the Kachinas full time this year. So at least the jersey matchup is vastly improved since the last time those 2 teams were as bad as they were. Also, like, props to the NHL schedule makers, whoever's idea it was to schedule that game week 1 of the season and bury it on a Saturday on a Sunday morning or whatever, like a Saturday morning. Saturday morning. Well done. That was a very good call. I think getting the games between those 2 teams out of the way as soon as possible is a very smart decision.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are very good players on the Sabres who are like obviously gonna be a part of this league for a very long time, like Dylan Cousins, who's now playing first line minutes with Casey Middlestat out. You've seen him at the World Juniors, I'm sure. He's got he's a very
Canada's arguably best player last World Juniors in the bubble of Edmonton.
Yep, exactly. He was very, very good. And he's getting a good opportunity here playing centering Jeff Skinner and Vinny Hinostroza. So that's and that's not a bad looking line. Like on paper, that's not a bad looking line. It's not maybe a first line in most on any other NHL team, but it's definitely a good, like a decent looking scoring line there. And then obviously you have Rasmus Darlene going up against Quinn Hughes here today. The battle of those two of the best young defensemen in the league. You know what's wild though, that I saw today, according to the Buffalo Sabres website, this is Rasmus Dahlene's 200th NHL game. And that's like wild to me. Like that just doesn't seem correct. That feels like it feels like he's only been in the league for like a year or so, but it's like, yeah, that totally lines up.
Every year in the Buffalo Sabres organization ages you 5. So he's like grizzled vet right now.
It really does. Like we might be underselling it how much it ages players when they go through that team in recent memory. And yeah, I think this is a case where the Canucks are really going to they really want to win, obviously. But like this is a game where
expert analysis, they really want to win.
Yeah, there's like the scene in Dodgeball where oh man, why am I blanking on his name right now? The play-by-play guy. It's not important, but he's just like, I spoke to the team before this. They said his team really wants to win this one. Like it was like really, Jason Bateman. That's what his name is. Anyway, I was totally blanking on his name.
Movie,
yeah. But either way, this is a case where the Canucks maybe would have come into this game thinking, this is an easy cakewalk game. We'll be fine. But I think they're coming in a little bit more nervous than they might have been had at least one of those games gone a little bit better for them.
Yeah, and you mentioned Brock Besser. maybe is back in the lineup tonight. That'd be huge for the first power play, I think, to have a full strength power play and see where that goes. You mentioned Jaro Halak potentially starting this one. I don't think so. We talked about it from on the Detroit game. Jaro Halak does not inspire that much confidence to me. And I know it's one game, and you know what? He's a long-time NHL goalie. Maybe he shakes it off going forward, but I would almost agree that this is very close to a must-win game on a road trip, because you look at the next two games, you've got Chicago and Seattle. Now, Chicago hasn't gotten off to that great of a start. They've given up like 3 goals every first period. They got just terrible starts. But, I mean, the Canucks have not gone off to good starts either, right? In these road games, they've given up the first goal in each game. So it's a question of the unstoppable force versus the immovable object in that game. Like, something's got to give either for the Canucks or Seattle or Chicago rather. And Seattle Saturday night, that's a home opener for Seattle, their first ever home game. Like, they're going to be jacked to win that game in front of their home fans for the first time ever. That will be a very tough game. And if you're banking on trying to get 2 points after maybe dropping points against Buffalo and Chicago, that will be a very tough task, even though, Seattle obviously last night got pumped by the Flyers. They just got manhandled. I unfortunately had money on the Seattle Kraken, which was pretty unfortunate. But you know what? I think, you look at the 3 games left on this road trip. Buffalo, you would say on paper, is the most winnable one, right? Like, it's pretty important to get 2 points.
I mean, I'll say right now, I think the more winnable game is Chicago, because they have looked so bad.
But but the Chicago still has Patrick Kane and all those guys. Like, they have like legit forward to bring like legit NHL forward talent. Who's Buffalo? I
think DeBrink gets injured. Didn't he get injured in a game? But like either way, even still, like even if he is
hand up. I didn't know that. But they still have Patrick Kane. He's pretty good.
Or no, he is in the lineup. Okay,
that's fake news.
Okay,
fake
I thought I heard him. I thought I heard he exited a game early.
Lachlan, please apologize to the listeners.
I'm sorry. Okay, but anyway, I think right now the Hawks are a team that's the Sabres are a team that has confidence right now, and they're playing in a position where they're actually like. They're feeling good about themselves in the early going here. Chicago has been melting down in a lot of their games. I do know for sure that there was a reporter at the game in Pittsburgh after Fleury got pulled, where apparently he was like, I have a direct line of vision into the tunnel behind the Hawks bench, and Marc-Andre Fleury is not having a good time. He is, and basically, like, that's your big off-season acquisition.
Throw a little hissy fit in the tunnel.
Throw a little hissy fit in the tunnel, which is very unlike Marc-Andre Fleury. If you know anything about his style, like his personality, that's so not like him, which means the Hawks have already broken him. And this is a team that is not playing with that. The Hawks are a team that are not playing with any sort of confidence. They look like a complete disaster in their own end of the ice. Maybe giving Seth Jones $9 million was a bad decision already.
And giving up a first round pick to do so.
Yeah, and that's right. And just the whole idea that they bought at this time and thought they were actually good enough to start winning games again is very funny. At least Buffalo kind of knows what they are and kind of knows what they're going for. At least
Buffalo knows they're terrible and they're leading.
At least Buffalo has some sort of sanity, which is not something you can say about the Sabres for a while. Either way, yeah, I think the Canucks need to win this game because of the fact of you don't want to add doubt. You don't want to cast doubt going into the last 2 games of the road trip. You want to give yourself as many opportunities to come out of this with like the split, I guess, because again, what do we always say with road trips, right? The best, like a successful road trip is usually 50% of the points you can get. That's usually what they say. If you can win half your games on the road, you're doing pretty well. So, if they win tonight, that's 5 out of a possible 6. That's 5 out of the 6 they need. And then you go into Chicago, you're over and win a game, you're over 7.
5 out of 8. They've been 4.
Yeah, 5 out of 8. I meant 5 out of the 6 they would need to win. They have 6 points out of a possible.
See, this is why we're podcasters. Math is not our strong suit.
Math is not our strong suit. No, we are not the stats nerds. We are the we are very much the
watch the game.
Does anybody have a calculator? Like a group? Yeah. So if they can say walk out, win the next 2 games starting with tonight in Buffalo, they finish the road trip with at least 7 points, and that's a pretty good start to your year.
Yeah, and if you're confident about the Vancouver Canucks tonight, you can feel free to place some money down at our sponsor, BetOnline AG. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the basketball, football, and hockey action this season. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows. You're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for all the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package.
Okay, so we have a update on the Travis Hamonic situation. Obviously, he was sent down to the minor league affiliate, the Abbotsford Canucks in the AHL, just over a week ago. I would say, this is another step in the Travis Hamonic saga this season. Hamonic has been officially suspended without pay by the Vancouver Canucks. I have the statement right here from the organization. Quote, General Manager Jim Benning announced today that defenseman Travis Hamonic has been placed on temporary leave of absence. The mutually agreed upon leave of absence will give Travis time as he works through his personal matters. The team asks that media respects Travis's privacy, and the club will not be making any further comment on this matter at this time. Lachlan, obviously, this is a pretty complicated situation in the sense that I think if you read the tea leaves, a lot of this would point to the fact that Travis Hamonic hasn't been vaccinated, and that's why this kind of standoff is taking place. But there's also, probably a bit more to it than just him not getting vaccinated, right? Like all the insiders that have reported on this issue, I've tried to be very careful on the situation. I think that's important to note, because if it was just him not wanting to get vaccinated, I think, one of these insiders would have reported it already, and we would have some clarity. But when you have guys like Elliot Friedman and even local guys like Thomas Drance who are well connected to the team, trying to tiptoe and be very careful about what they say on the situation, it lends itself to me thinking that it is about him not wanting to get vaccinated, but there's also more to this story than that.
Yeah, there's definitely more to it than that. The problem is the way the Canucks are handling it. They're not really doing him any favors by, again, not being upfront about enough. Mm-hmm. To a sense, one of the things I talked about on my other show, the Creasecast, last night, when we were talking about this after
go subscribe
was, yes, go subscribe. We talked about how I don't know if you remember a couple seasons ago, there was the situation where Jacob Markstrom had to take a personal leave because his father passed away, and I remember at the time the Canucks did a really good job of basically giving as much information as they could without giving away what it was, to the point where it was very, very clear that it was clear to everybody that, we're going to leave this alone. We're not going to, we're not going to touch on this. Right. They didn't have to say anything. The Canucks did enough of a good enough job with, in the PR standpoint for people to know, this is serious. We're going to leave it alone.
Well, Lachlan, I think this all started when Jim Benning at one of his press availabilities right before training camp said everyone in his organization will be 100% fully vaccinated. And he made that very clear. And he said Hamonic's going to be here soon. And then, nope, he's not here. And we're waiting on Hamonic, still not here. It looks, and that's where I think the confusion and the doubt comes from, because when you say everyone has to be 100% fully vaccinated and will be 100% fully vaccinated, one guy's not here and he never shows up like that, that's gonna lead to some questions.
And even last week he said that he expects Travis Hamonic to be reporting to Abbotsford, and of course that didn't happen. So it's like, why are you saying it if like you kind of can see what's going on? Like, I think he knows that wasn't going to happen. So why would he say it at all? The thing that's really important here, though, with the situation. So the people who originally figured this out was Cap Friendly. Basically, they sent out a tweet yesterday saying that based on the information they have at their disposal, currently Travis Hamonic is carrying a cap hit of 0, which means that the Canucks suspended him without pay, which is what prompted the Canucks PR release, where they said, like, you know, they're trying to be like, no, it's not suspended without pay. This is a mutual thing, right? Like, there's a mutual leave of absence thing. At which point Cap Friendly came back and said, like, this is the full quote from the tweet. As previously stated, Hamonic currently does not have a cap hit. In this situation where the player takes a leave of absence and the team isn't paying their salary, the player has no cap hit for the duration. For cap purposes, this is the same as suspended without pay. So it means the same thing in the NHL, like CBA rules, essentially. And what's also really important about that is that to be able to put 0, to be able to suspend a player without pay, essentially, or get away with not paying a cap hit, there has to be cause. You have to be able to prove that they did something, that whatever the player is doing is not beneficial to the team, or something that they're essentially. Because otherwise, teams would just say, oh, I don't feel like paying this guy, and just not, right? So there has to be like fail-safes in place to prove that what they're doing is not something the team is something against in violation of their contract to not pay them. So, and then you look at other situations, like Samantha from the Broadcast actually put out a thread, like talking about like some recent situations with other personal issues and stuff, and a really good example being,
she probably knows what she's talking about.
Yeah, she's a lawyer, so when she can read the CBA and know exactly what's going on in there. And then one of the perfect examples she brought up was Jonathan Drouin last year. He took a leave of absence for most of the season due to what we found out very recently was dealing with anxiety and sleep disorders. And the Canadians paid him through the whole thing. They never took him off their books. And the Canadians, and it's not like the Canadians are a team that has plenty of money to burn in their salary cap. They're always a cap team. They're always paying a whole lot of amount. So it could have been beneficial to them to not, but they couldn't. They obviously weren't going to do that to a guy who is dealing with anxiety. You don't take a guy's income away when he's dealing with something serious, like a serious health situation, obviously. So for the Canucks to be able to do this here would very, very much guarantee that whatever's going on is something that is detrimental to the team. It's not something, and that could be something other than the vaccination stuff that's been going on. There also, again, there still very well could be a second thing involved with this that we don't know about. But as far as we know, but at the very least, we know right now that it is like that the Canucks cannot get away with giving a guy a 0 cap hit if they haven't violated a contract clause of some kind. So that kind of tells you what you need to know right now.
Lachlan, if the podcasting game doesn't work out, you may have a future as a lawyer. That was very, very well explained with the CBA and everything, man. Oh, good.
I do. Thank you. Impressed. I do like to argue.
I'm really impressed.
I try my best. I'm admittedly, I'm very much the dress for the job you want, not the job you have kind of guy, in the sense of like, I try to be as professional a reporter as I can without being there, you know?
Yeah, no, that was really well done, man.
Thank you.
You know what? My theory on this, and just me reading the whole situation, is I think what happened is back in July, I think both the player and the team thought that, he could maybe get away with not being vaccinated. You got to remember back in July, the provincial government was saying there wouldn't be any restrictions come Labor Day, right? And now we've got, vaccine passports and the team has to be fully vaccinated. I thought maybe they thought, both the player and the team were like, you know what, if you don't want to get vaccinated, you could hold off a bit. It's looking pretty good right now. And then obviously things change. You need to be you're going to be pretty soon need to be doubly vaccinated to even get into Rogers Arena. I don't know if that applies for the players, but for everyone else who's not a player, that's probably going to be the case. So I think that's that's my reading of the situation. Again, I want to reiterate that is my personal opinion, but that's just me reading the situation from a podcaster's / fans view.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. We will see. I'm sure eventually it's going to come out what happened here. Like, this is one of those stories.
I think there's more than the vaccine situation though, because like I mentioned, like when guys like Elliot Freeman are tiptoeing around this, like there's more to it. If it was just he does not want to be vaccinated, that would have been reported on by now, and someone would have gone on the record, like a big, like what I call the capital J journalists, right? The big national insiders. Someone would have reported something about it, but we haven't heard anything yet.
Yeah, I think the only thing that we can glean right now is I think Gary Bettman at the beginning of the year, I forget who he was being interviewed by. It might have been ESPN. I think the number he gave that he said was there are only 4 players who aren't vaccinated in the NHL. We know 2 of one of them is Tyler Bertuzzi, one of them is Mackenzie Blackwood. And I don't know if we know who the other 2 are.
Well, and even Mackenzie Blackwood changed his mind.
Has he officially changed his mind? Has that happened?
I remember reading something about he's going to get vaccinated. They can.
Well, there you go. That's good. So he's still technically.
I think he's still technically unvaccinated.
Yeah, until he gets vaccinated, he still technically counts as one of those 4. So, and I don't know who I don't believe I know who the other 2 are. Maybe it's an easy Google search, but that could not be Travis Hamonic could not be involved, technically not be one of those. Gary Bettman is a lawyer, and he knows that he could not have to include Travis Hamonic in that conversation if he wanted to, because he's technically not here, so he's not technically in the NHL. Yeah. That lawyer speak, you know how it goes. We will find out eventually what it is. And at the end of the day, you just want to hope that the Canucks are doing the right thing in terms of like who they're protecting here. I think the biggest concern for me of anything is the fact of, the Canucks are an important part of BC in terms of like they can make things more real based on what they do and how they act and everything. And I just want to believe that the team, is not going to try and, essentially give like help out in the case of like for the people, and give people like reason to say, oh, if this hockey player won't get vaccinated, then I don't have to either, kind of thing, right? You hope, and for the most part, the Canucks seem like they're doing a good job in the sense of obviously he's not here. They very easily could bring him through anyway, could let him come anyway without it. So the fact that they're not letting that, or they're not, if he is unvaccinated, they're not letting him, if he's not vaccinated, not letting him play is a good thing, because it doesn't give weight. It doesn't give any extra weight to the idea that you can just live through life without it, kind of thing. So that's kind of at the end of the day, what I think is most important is just making sure that, everyone else gets vaccinated and the Canucks are setting the right example, kind of thing.
Yeah, credit to the Vancouver Canucks organization for using everything in their disposal to, hold the line against allegedly, again, we want to reiterate that, allegedly someone who maybe does not want to get vaccinated. And I'm sure there's going to be more updates throughout the season on the Travis Hamonic situation, because I don't think this is a situation or story that's going to go away just tomorrow, but maybe it could. And we're going to end the episode with some talk about the Vancouver Canucks defense early on in this season. But before that, a word from our sponsor, Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now possible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questions and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. With rockauto.com, you can save time and money. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, and Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, locked on in there. How'd you hear about us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Okay, Lachlan. The Vancouver Canucks defense so far this season. Early thoughts. Quinn Hughes looking pretty good. I thought, he played especially very well against the Philadelphia Flyers on Friday night. He was back to rookie Quinn Hughes. We have the saying Bubble Demko, rookie Quinn Hughes. So we got to make that happen at some point. OEL, he's had a good start to the season, and I was on the SCT show with Tambier and the boys last night, and I mentioned sometimes for a player like OEL, he was in a situation in Arizona where the team was spinning its wheels. We just talked about Arizona earlier in the podcast, not going anywhere. Going to a team like the Vancouver Canucks, and say what you will about the Vancouver Canucks, if they're a Stanley Cup contender, playoff contender, what have you, it's a team with expectations, and that can rejuvenate someone like OEL, who pretty much for the majority of his career, the Coyotes were pretty decent when he first got there. They were a playoff team, but for the last 6-7 years, they were spinning their wheels and they weren't real. There was no expectations. And he was probably answering more questions about where they were going to play more than what was happening on the ice. Right. So for OEL to go to a team, in Vancouver that has expectations and where it matters, where hockey matters, that can rejuvenate a guy like OEL. And I think we're seeing in that right now. I mean, it's still early. It's only 3 games into the season, but we've had enough, a few games here to see that OEL looks like he could be a legitimate top 4 guy for this team. And if that happens, that's huge. That's huge for this team, right?
Yeah. You mentioned the OEL's time in Arizona, especially even in the last 2 years where the team was actually kind of okay and making a decent, had a couple decent playoff opportunities.
There was just so much going on outside of hockey. It was probably tough.
There was the whole John Chayka thing. There was the whole I think it was Katie Strang piece that came out.
The owner just being a bit of a slimy guy.
Yeah, the toxic work environment the Coyotes had created in their under new ownership. There was a whole mess of problems. And as a player, that's got to be so. When you're a guy who wants to focus on playing hockey and stuff, it's got to be so demoralizing.
Yeah, and Lachlan, I mentioned the Blake Griffin situation in the NBA, and obviously totally different sport. But Blake Griffin got traded from a decent team in the Clippers to the Pistons, a team very much like the Arizona Coyotes. They're not getting relocated, but they're a terrible team. First overall pick last year, worst team in the NBA. And guess what? Blake Griffin literally dogged it for a year and a half. Didn't attempt a single dunk. First game on the Brooklyn Nets. Guess what he does? Attempts 3 dunks and actually makes them. So some guys just in a situation where there's not that much hope and, the franchise is spinning its wheels, you can kind of just lose focus and not, worry about the little things that make you the type of athlete that you can be. And maybe OEL's discovered that back in Arizona. I know Thomas Strantz of The Athletic, I was reading his article, and the quotes from OEL, he seems jacked up to be on a team and in a city that cares about hockey.
Yeah, I'm quite liking OEL in the early going myself. I thought I was going to be a little bit more worried about him in the year, but no, he's done quite well. And I think we talked when he did his first press conference and everything. He was having a joke. He was joking around. He was in a super good mood. And I was like, oh, this guy's kind of funny. I kind of like this. He's Alex Edler, but more interesting. He's a less quiet Alex Edler. And he's been fun to watch. He's been getting engaged in the play a lot. He has been he's been getting involved in like scrums and stuff too, which is a little
Yeah.
bit
Oh,
like,
he has
out
got
of
some
his
snarl to his game. I did not know
yeah.
that.
I don't feel like we saw much of that with him as a Coyote.
Oh, we didn't watch much.
And maybe
Coyotes
I could
in
be
general.
wrong. Maybe we asked a lot.
We didn't watch much Coyotes in general, so
those are the worst. Those games were the worst ones to watch, particularly because, at least for like the last little while, because both teams were so bad for such a long time. It was like, oh, those games were borderline. Were the closest I was ever like, I don't need to watch this game. Like, those are the closest I came. But yeah, the entire defense, like, here's the thing. I think a lot of us were coming in expecting a lot more worries, even though, like the Oilers, Flyers, well, the Oilers are very, very good offensively, but like the Flyers and the Red Wings aren't world beaters by any stretch, but they haven't looked too bad. Like, they've had a couple like mistakes here and there, but every team does. And overall, like the flaws that I think are still gonna probably show up at some point. Like, so far they've been fine. Like, I think Tyler Myers has been actually very good in his own end of the ice, and he's actually been doing a pretty good job at like keeping scoring chances out of his own end, which is very surprising. It's not that he still had his couple, like he still has his flaws, but like overall he's been playing a lot better than I anticipated, especially after the last couple of years that I've seen him. So I like what I'm seeing from him there so far. I really like Kyle Burrows. Kyle Burrows has been playing very well for a guy who doesn't have a lot of NHL experience under his belt. He's like, as a guy, like, again, you haven't noticed him much, and that's what he said is the best part of his game, is that he's like, if you're not noticing me, that's a good thing. Like, he said that, I think, after his first game. And that's kind of what you want. Like, it's good that he recognizes that's his role, and that if he steps up, it's to make a safe, smart play. And that's what you want from this group right now. You want stability. You want the ability to provide your goaltender with as much help as possible. And so far, they're doing that.
Myers is still in his grace period from hitting Duncan Keith. Like, he's still in that grace period.
Oh, yes, for sure.
He's gonna be in that grace period at least for a while. I was talking about this on the SCT show last night, where we were talking about it. What Tyler Myers should have done is, instead of saying, "Oh, I didn't know who was in the corner," he should have been like, "Yeah, I knew it was Keith, and I wanted to like lay him out." That would have he would have been like a fan favorite right then and there.
Yeah, he's like, I've been reading Canucks books. I've been reading the whole history of the team. I know what's up.
I know. I've been taking the pulse of the fans, and I know you want me just to absolutely level Duncan Keith. And guess what? I did it. Now stop talking shit about me.
Yeah, like there we go. If he did, like, if that were true, like, power.
I would have bought a Tyler Myers jersey like right then and there.
There you go. Well, there you go.
And to mention your point on Kyle Burrows, what I like about Kyle Burrows is he knows his role next to Jack Rathbone. It is kind of maybe stay back a bit, clean up, and just let Rathbone cook. Let him do his thing. Let him be on the puck and make moves. And he had a good game against Detroit, right? He had a couple nice shots, and I think he hit the crossbar or something like that. Like, he had a really good game, and I like how Kyle Burrows knows his role beside a guy like Jack Rathbone, right? Like, he is very much a quote unquote stay at home defenseman. Tie up the guy. Making up nice couple of stick checks, and let Rathbone cook. Let him be on the puck. You don't need to be on the puck. Rathbone can take care of that for both of you guys.
Yeah, the only defenseman so far that I haven't really had much to say about is Tucker Pullman. And even that's kind of more than I was expecting early on from Tucker Pullman. Like, I thought he was going to be a lot more of like I thought I was going to see a lot more plays from him where I'm like, oh, he was not, or he, is a bit of a defensive breakdown. But no, he's been, I haven't noticed him much. And I would say in the early going, that's a good thing for him because he's still learning. He's with a new team and everything. And yeah, like overall, like, yeah, considering what I think the kind of the disaster zone I thought we were coming in with this defense, so far it's been much better than I expected, and that's good. It very well could come down to earth later, but for now, let's hope that they keep it up.
Yeah, I've been crossing my fingers this entire segment because, like you said, like the wheels could fall off at any moment. And we haven't mentioned Tucker Pullman. I think he's a very good skater for someone his size. Like that's what stands out to me. Like he's very mobile, and he like playing with Quinn Hughes. It's very much the Kyle Burrows situation where he knows that Quinn Hughes is going to be the guy, holding on to the puck, making his moves, doing his thing. And he just needs to make sure he doesn't mess up and make sure he gets the puck to Quinn Hughes when possible, right? Like that's what I've liked about Tucker Pullman so far when he's played with Quinn Hughes. A lot of people, including myself, penciled him in with OEL to start the season, but Tucker Pullman and Quinn Hughes, that could be a pairing going forward.
Yeah, Tucker Pullman and Quinn Hughes. Yeah, I think it's possible. I think it's possible. I think again, it's one of those cases where it's very much if you had a better option there, you probably wish you had a better option there, just in terms of like.
And Quinn you know what? With $3 million now without Hamonic, you can go out and get a right shot defenseman if you really, really need to. I don't know who's available out there as free agent or via trade. That would be a good fit with the Canucks. But
that is a good question. That might be something. That might be something to explore at a future time, because It again, that entirely depends on the idea that, Travis Hamonic doesn't play a single game, because if that happens, then suddenly there's trouble. But it is possible that they could try and find something. I think the biggest problem really is just the fact that, Quinn Hughes is a great defenseman. And for what they have and for what the Canucks assets are available at their disposal, that would actually be worth trying to trade for a defenseman. They don't really have enough to bring in somebody without losing something big. So at least not if what you're searching for is Quinn Hughes' partner, right? Because like you look at all the other defensemen in the league, like the pairings that just where it's like when you have a great one, you look for almost as good of one to play alongside them, kind of thing, right? Like you want that defenseman that can be as good and contribute as much as the star he's playing alongside. And that's kind of where the difficulty comes in. It's just they maybe can't find that, but they could find some better depth potentially out there via trade for the right price, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So Lachlan, we'll end with this. Give your letter grade for the Canucks defense so far this season.
I would give the Canucks a B minus, defense a B minus. I think they've done as well, better than I expected. Not like crazy amazing, but I feel that the group that they have there, at least on that right side or on the left side especially, I think I'd like to see the sustained ability to keep up with at this pace from Hughes, OEL, and Rathbone. The right side, I expect to fall back to earth a little bit, but honestly, they've done pretty well. Like they've done quite well.
Yeah, no, a terrible podcasting, but I agree with you 100%. B minus is a fair grade, I think, so far for the Vancouver Canucks. Like you mentioned it perfectly. Guys like OEL, Rathbone. I think we all expected Jeff Rathbone to be pretty decent, but OEL's been a big surprise. And for guys like Pullman and Tyler Myers, good starts, but I think maybe those guys are a bit less sustainable than maybe some players like Rathbone, OEL, and especially Quinn Hughes. Before we end the episode, special announcement on this podcast. This is tough to say. I'm going to be leaving the podcast. Yeah, it is a sad announcement. I'm going to be leaving the podcast next Wednesday. Next Wednesday will be my last episode of Locked On Canucks. It was a brief time on Locked On Canucks, but it was a fruitful time on Locked On Canucks.
I was too difficult to work with. I was too much of a
we're gonna officially say on the record creative difficulties. That is what's what's making it.
We should actually say though, you are actually going on to a pretty great full-time gig.
Yeah,
getting, I don't know how much you're allowed to talk about it, but you're getting.
We'll talk about it maybe on the last episode. But it's nothing to do with you. You're a great guy. I've never met you in person. We've done this for a month. I can already consider you a friend. That's how well I think we've worked together. And we'll maybe talk about it on a future episode, but it's just a job I'm taking. I'm not going to be able to do this podcast anymore. But you know what they say, Lachlan, don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened.
Right. Perfect way of putting it.
Yeah. And
I will still be here. I will still be here doing the show for the time being. So yeah, we'll definitely listen in. For
not
the
going
last,
anywhere on Twitter.
week here.
Not going anywhere on Twitter. You can still see my 100% correct Canucks takes online.
You're not just dropping off the face of the
No,
earth
I haven't been hired by NHL team's analytics department. So, and nothing like that. So that has it for today's episode of Locked On Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making Locked On Canucks your first listen of the day. And don't forget to make your second listen of the day Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Host Scott Cullen leans on his decades of fantasy hockey insight and experience every day to help you be the expert of your fantasy league. It's free and available on all platforms. See you tomorrow.